Hello friends, this is the first lecture in this video series for the subject Managerial Economics. In this lecture, I will discuss with you all the introduction part of Managerial Economics. So before I start about what is Managerial Economics, I would like to share a brief about what is economics. Economics is essentially a study or a subject that talks about using the scarce resources in the best possible manner. So there are two running themes that is very basic to the subject of economics. One is scarcity and another one is efficiency. As you all can see here in this slide, one, that resources are limited and that they are scarce in nature, and our wants and desires, we can say the needs to use the goods and services, various goods and services, are seemingly unlimited. That gives rise to the notion of efficiency or economic efficiency. Means there has to be some order, or there has to be something that makes it possible for the society to use these limited and scarce resources in the optimum manner so as to produce as much goods and services as possible. So what happens here is this is economics is the subject or is that discipline that acknowledges that yes, there is the scarcity in the world, and we have to find ways, solution to use these scarce resources in such a manner so that it can produce goods and services as much as possible. Now, moving on to our next slide, I hope the basic of economics is clear here. So I want to put it in the other way around, that why do we need to study economics? So if I'll put what I have said before in another manner, that if, let's suppose that there is no scarcity, that all the goods, all the resources and goods and services are in abundance, and there is such a situation in the world that there is no resource scarcity, and that everyone can have all the goods that they want to have. So in case of no scarcity, there would be no use of economics science. Why? Because you do not need any such solution that can produce the use these scarce resources, because there is no scarcity. So hence there is no need of efficiency, and hence there will be no need of economics. But since there is scarcity, we all know the goods and services are always in not in abundance, and that we have to utilize our resources to produce maximum number of goods and services so that can be distributed among different parts of the society. That actually gives rise to the value, economic value for goods and services. If there was no scarcity, there is utopia, this situation of utopia where everything is there for everyone, then there things will not have any economic value, and hence there will be no use of economics. But that is not the situation, and currently the reality is that there are scarcity, and hence we need the economics, and that is the unique contribution of economics. So that is the basic reason to why do we need economics. All right. Now, moving on to the next one is the subject matter of economics. Many of the students always ask, what are the things that we actually have to study in economics? Now, you know what is economics. So what you have to study into this, that what does form the body of the subject economics? Well, the economist over the period of time has developed vast kit of economic theories analytical tools and other techniques, and that has been branched into myriad different subtopics of economics. As we know that there is microeconomics, then macroeconomics, there is developmental economics, and many financial economics is there. So, and then this managerial economics as well that we are going to study. So basically all those theories and tools and techniques that has been developed by the economists, that form part of the subject economics, and that has been also categorized into various branches. So if we are studying microeconomics, then we study like theory of demand, theory of firm, consumer behavior, and so on. So if you are going to study macroeconomics, in that we study mostly about business cycle, then the aggregate variables of the economy like GDP, etc. Then the aggregate market trends of unemployment, employment, savings and investments, income distribution of a country. So these are all various theories, concepts developed by economists, which has been separately categorized into different sections, and they themselves have become a branch or a different subject within economics. So that becomes the subject matter of economics. Now moving on to our main topic, that is managerial economics. So I'll just give you a brief of what we are going to study in this particular introductory lecture. We will discuss now the meaning of managerial economics, its nature, and its scope. So what is managerial economics? Now let me start with this first definition given by Professor Evan J. Douglas, that managerial economics is basically concerned with the application of economic principles and methodologies. So from here we can derive that managerial economics is an applied economics, right? Why? Because here the manager of a firm applies or uses the economic theories and other techniques and tools in his business decision making process. Okay, then if we look at the definition here, business decision making process within the firm or an organization. So here we are talking about individual firms, so that makes it microeconomic in nature, because in microeconomics we are always talking about the individual behavior of economic organizations, right? So managerial economics, in a very plain language, if I will explain, then managerial economics is nothing. It is simply the applied economics, or that branch of economics which is being utilized by the managers of firm or organization in their business decision making process. Now I'll just take one example. Suppose there is a manager has to decide about certain decision of the firm, for example expansion, or suppose launching a new product. So if he wants to think that the product which is already existing, he wants to launch that product in a new market. So what he first has to do, he has to analyze the demand for that particular product in that new market or in the new area where he wants to launch that product. So for that he has at his aid, at his hand, he can use the theory of demand, which comes from microeconomics. So he can use that theory, utilize that theory in order to find the demand curve. Okay, then there are other things as well. Suppose he wants to understand what will be the tax implication if he launches that product in a new market, or what will be the tax implication, then he has to, of course, go through the taxation policy or the GST and other thing regarding that particular product. Okay, so he has to be aware and he has to analyze that and that taxation policy, we all know that is part of fiscal policy, that is a part of macroeconomics. So in this way, managerial economics is actually using the economic theories and principles and concepts in order to take the decision for a firm by its managers. So next we come to the nature of managerial economics. So as I have already discussed, like managerial economics is micro as well as macro in nature. Why? Because it is it involves the decision making process of individual firms. So here we are basically talking about individual firms. That makes it microeconomic in nature, because it is about the individual behavior of the firm, how the individual firm will behave, how they are going to take decision, what decision they will be taking. Then since a firm does not operate in an isolation, it operates within a business environment, business environment. So every component or element of business environment, whether it is social, political, technical, legal, environmental, all of these things are going to affect a business. So the manager has to be aware, and he has to keep analyzing the various business environment components while making a decision. So in the decision making process of a manager for the firm, he has to keep analyzing the overall business environment, and that will involve some of the concepts, many of the concepts actually, from the macroeconomics perspective. That is why managerial economics is macroeconomic in nature as well. Thirdly, managerial economics involves the analysis of observed economic phenomenon, means what is actually happening, the facts. Okay, so that is somewhere part of positive economics. So that makes it positive economic in nature. At the same time, it tells the manager what is to be done. So in that it becomes prescriptive in nature, and that is why it is normative economics as well. Okay, so now moving on to the last theme of this lecture today, that is the scope of managerial economics. Now, what is the scope of managerial economics? It is actually very far reaching, it is very broad, but mostly it involves two major branches of economics, one of which is, like I have already discussed, microeconomics, and another branch is macroeconomics. Now let me explain that once again. I will take the same example that I have taken. If a manager has to take a decision regarding launching of a new product, then for the operational issues, he will have to use various theories that comes from microeconomics, such as theory of demand, theory of production, which is also called theory of firm, then market structure and pricing theories also he will have to use in order to analyze what kind of price he can keep for this new product. Unless and until he has the idea about the market structure in which he is playing, he cannot think or he cannot arrive at a price. So he will of course use the cost theory as well as the price market structure and pricing theory. Also theory of demand will be utilized in order to draw the demand curve and understand the market demand for the product. Likewise, we will have to understand both. He might use fiscal and monetary policy, other industrial laws, foreign trade. Suppose if the product that he wants to launch requires the import of raw material, right? So there he has to understand what are the policies related with the import of those raw materials, and what is the exchange rate, and what are the other legal issues related with that. So foreign trade gets involved here, which is again the part of macroeconomic. Okay, so this is how both the concepts of microeconomics as well as macroeconomics and some other aspects are also involved in the scope of managerial economics, but largely it is these two branches of economics, that is micro as well as macro, which is involved in managerial economics. But at the same time, it also takes managerial economics also takes away a lot of things from other subjects, other disciplines as well. But largely when we are talking about economics, so these two branches of economics is being used in managerial economics, and they form the major part of managerial economics. So with this, today's introductory lecture on managerial economics is over. Thank you.